All right, welcome back. So let's tackle a huge question today. How do you take a big, messy, brilliant idea and actually turn it into a real finished thing? It's not magic, believe me, it's a discipline, and we're going to dive right in.
I mean, just think about it for a second. The phone in your hand, that new skyscraper downtown, the bridges you cross every day, all of these things started as just ideas, right? Just concepts. So how in the world did they survive that crazy journey from a brainstorm session to the real world without completely falling apart? Because, let's be honest, we've all been there, right? You have this great idea, but then it just gets bogged down in confusion. People aren't sure what they're supposed to be doing, and suddenly you're way behind schedule and blowing through the budget. It's a classic story of potential just fizzling out. But, and this is the key, there is a way to bring order to that chaos. And that solution, my friends, is the world of project management. It's the framework, the roadmap that helps us navigate all that complexity and actually, get things done. So let's start at the very beginning with the absolute basics. Okay, so what even is a project? The definition here is super important, and I want you to focus on two key words: temporary and unique. A project isn't something you do forever, right? It has a clear start and a clear end. Building a new website, for example, is a project. And it's unique. Even if you've built 100 websites before, this specific one for this client is totally different. So if the project is the what we're building, then project management is the how we get it done. Simple as that. It's the whole discipline of using everything in your toolbox, your knowledge, your skills like communication, all those tools like Trello or Microsoft Project, and proven techniques to steer that project all the way to a successful finish. And this is a super helpful way to think about it. The difference between a project and, say, regular operations. A project is like building the very first car factory. It's a huge one-time effort. But operations, that's the day-to-day repetitive work of actually making cars in that factory, day in and day out once it's built. So projects create or change things, while operations are all about sustaining them. All right, so we've got a handle on what a project is, but how do you actually manage one from start to finish? I mean, what's the playbook? Well, luckily for us, there's a really well-defined process, a kind of blueprint for success. So pretty much every project you can think of, big or small, goes through these 5 basic phases. First step is initiation. This is where you define the project at a high level and get the official go-ahead. Then comes the really heavy lifting, planning. You map out everything, the who, what, when, where, and why. After that, it's go time, executing. This is where the team does the actual work. But while that's happening, you're also in the monitoring and controlling phase, keeping an eye on everything, tracking progress, and making adjustments on the fly. And finally, you get to closing, where you formally wrap everything up, hand over the final product, and celebrate a job well done. Okay, so within all those phases, every single project manager lives and breathes by one core concept. It's a constant balancing act, and it's known as the iron triangle. Honestly, this idea defines the fundamental challenge of pretty much every project ever. These are the 3 pillars of any project. You've got scope, which is basically all the work you've promised to do. Then there's time, which is your deadline, right? How long you have to get it done. And finally, cost, which is your budget. Seems simple enough, doesn't it? But this is where it gets really interesting and tricky. So here's the crucial thing to understand. These 3 things, they aren't independent. You cannot just change one without it having a direct impact on the other 2. They are totally locked together. That's why they call it the iron triangle. Imagine it's made of solid steel bars. If you try to pull one side out to make it longer, the other 2 sides have to adjust. All right, let's make this concrete. Let's use an example. Imagine you are the project manager tasked with building a brand new food delivery app. The scope is clear. Users need to be able to browse, order, and pay. Your time is 6 months. And your cost, the budgets, is 3 million rupees. See? Everything is perfectly balanced in our iron triangle. But then, well, reality hits. Okay, let's walk through these scenarios. First step, the client suddenly wants to add multi-language support, a classic case of what we call scope creep. The what of the project just got bigger. So that iron triangle has to bend. You either need to increase the cost, more money for more developers, or you need more time by pushing the deadline back. Okay, what about scenario 2? The launch date gets moved up by 2 months. Your time just shrank. To hit that super aggressive deadline, you have to make a choice. You can either throw more money at it, increase the cost by hiring more people and paying overtime, or you have to reduce the scope. Maybe that cool AI feature you planned gets pushed to a later release. And finally, scenario 3, the budget gets cut. Your cost is now tighter. So what levers can you pull? Well, you either have to reduce the scope by cutting features, or you have to extend the time because you can't afford to have as many people working on it at once. This trade-off game, this is what project managers do all day long.
So, given all these challenges and that constant balancing act, how do you actually structure the work itself? Well, it turns out there isn't just one way to build something. Different projects need different strategies, or what we call methodologies.
Let's take a look at the 3 main playbooks you'll see out there. First up, you've got waterfall. This is the old school classic linear approach. You do everything in order. You finish all of the design before you write a single line of code. It's super structured, very predictable, and that makes it perfect for projects where you know exactly what the end result needs to be from day one. Think about building a bridge. You can't get halfway across the river and suddenly decide to add another lane, right? Then on the total opposite end of the spectrum, you've got agile. This is all about being flexible, moving fast, and adapting to change. You work in these short, intense bursts called sprints, usually about 2 weeks long, and at the end of each one, you deliver a small working piece of the final product. You get feedback, you adjust your plan, and you go into the next sprint. It's no wonder this is how most software is built today. The tech world changes so fast, and agile is designed to change right along with it. And then sitting in the middle, you have hybrid. This isn't a cop-out. It's actually a really smart strategic choice to take the best of both worlds. For example, imagine you're building a new smart home device. You'd probably use a very rigid, predictable waterfall plan for manufacturing the physical hardware. But for the software that runs on it, you'd use a super flexible agile process to constantly update and improve it. The big takeaway here is this: choosing the right approach is absolutely critical. Picking the wrong one isn't just inefficient, it can literally doom your project before you even begin.
So there you have it. From figuring out what a project even is, to walking through those 5 phases, to that constant balancing act of the iron triangle, and finally picking the right game plan, this is the core playbook for turning an idea into reality. It's what gives you structure, clarity, and a clear path right through the middle of all the chaos. So now that you have the playbook, the only question left is, what great idea are you going to bring to life?